Good morning everyone. Today my topic on research and hypothesis. First of all, what is research? Research can be as a research of our knowledge or as any systematic investigation to establish fact. Characteristics of research. First one, systematic, logical research, empirical research, deductive research, replicable research. Next one, types of research. Pure and applied research, exploratory or formulative research, descriptive research, diagnostic research, evaluation studies, action research, experimental research, analytical study or statistical method, historical research, surveys and case study. Next one, pure and applied research. Pure research is the study of search of knowledge, and applied is the study of finding solution to a problem. Purposes of pure and applied research. Pure applied research, it can contribute new fact. It can put theory to the rest. It may aid in conceptual clarification. It may integrate previously existing theories applied. It offers solution to many practical problems to find the critical factors in a practical problems. Next one, exploratory or formulative research. Exploratory research means it is preliminary study of an unfamiliar problem about which the researcher has little or no knowledge. Purposes of to generate new ideas, to increase the researcher's familiarity with the problem, to make a precise formulation of the problem, to gather information for clarifying concepts and to determine whether it is feasible to attempt the study. Next, descriptive research. It is the study is a fact-finding investigation with adequate interpretation. It is the simplest type of research. It is designed to gather descriptive information and provides information for formulating more sophisticated studies. Data are collected using observation, interviews and mail questionnaires, etc. Then, purposes. It can focus directly on a theoretical point. It can highlight important methodological aspects of data collection and interpretation. It obtained in a research may be useful for prediction about areas of social life outside in the boundaries of research. Descriptive studies are valuable in providing facts needed for planning, social action, programs, etc. Diagnostic study. It is directed towards discovering what is happening, why is it happening, and what can be done about. It aims at identifying the causes of a problem and the possible solution for it. Then purposes, it may also be connected with discovering and testing whether certain variables are associated, to determine the frequency with which something occurs or with which it is associated with something else. Then evaluation studies. It is one type of applied research. It is made for assessing the effectiveness of social or economic programs implemented or for assessing the impact of developmental projects area. The determination of the results attained by some activity designed to accomplish some valued goal or objectives. Purposes. It directed to assess or appraise the quality and quantity of an activity and its performance, to specify its attributes and conditions required for its success. Action research. Researcher attempted to study action, example, eradication of malaria, maritime navigation. Action research is a reflective process of progressive problem solving led by individuals working with others in teams or as part of a community of practice to improve the way they address issues and solve problems. Next, purposes a baseline survey of the pre-action situation, a feasibility study of the proposed action program, planning and launching the program, concurrent evaluation of the program, making modification and changes in the program. Experimental research. Experimental research is commonly used in sciences such as sociology and psychology, physics, chemistry, biology and medicines, etc. It is a systematic and a scientific approach to research in which the researcher manipulates one or more variables and controls and measures any change in other variables, etc. Purposes: experiments are conducted to be able to predict phenomena, to maintain control over all factors. A blueprint of the procedure that enables the researcher to test his hypothesis. Analytical study. Analytical study is a system of procedures and techniques of analysis applied to quantitative data, a system of mathematical models or statistical techniques applicable to numerical data. Example, scientometrics. Purposes: it aims at testing hypotheses and specifying and interpreting relationship. It concentrates on analyzing data in depth and examining relationship from various angles by bringing in as many relevant variables as possible in the analysis plan. Historical research. The systematic collection and evaluation of data related to past occurrence in order to describe causes, effects and trends of those events that may help explain present events and anticipate future events. Data is often archival, including newspaper, clippings, photographs, etc. and may include interviews. Purposes: to draw explanation and generalization from the past trends in order to understand the present and to anticipate the future. It enables us to grasp our relationship with the past and to plan more intelligently for the future. The past contains the key to the present and the past and the present influences the future. It helps us in visualizing the society as a dynamic organism and its structures and functions as evolving, steadily growing and undergoing change and transformation. Next one, survey research. It is one of the most important areas of measurement in applied social research. The broad area of survey research encompasses any measurement procedure that involve asking questions of respondents. A survey can be anything from a short paper and pencil feedback from an intensive one-on-one in-depth interview. Then, purposes. It is always conducted in a natural setting. It seeks responses directly from the respondents. It can cover a very large population. A survey may involve an extensive study or an intensive study. A survey covers a definitely graphical area, a city, district, state, etc. Then case study. A case study is a research methodology common in social sciences. It is based on an in-depth investigation of a single individual, group or even to explore caution in order to find underlying principle. Then purposes: to examine limited number of variables. Case study methods involve an in-depth longitudinal examination of a single instance or event. It provides a systematic way to looking at events, collecting data, analyzing information and reporting the results, etc. Then field research. Field research has traditionally been thought different from methods of research conducted in a laboratory or academic setting. Purposes: the advantages of field research are that people are closer to real world conditions and design the researcher in the best way to discover the particular information required. Next, research design. The term research design means drawing for research. It is a systematic planning of conducting research. It aims to achieve goals of the research. And then definition: as the arrangement of conditions for collections and analysis of data in a manner that aims to combine the relevance to the research purpose with economy in procedure by a master plan specifying the methods and procedure for collecting and analyzing the needed information by Zimmerman. Need and purposes: it helps in smooth sailing of the research process. It saves the money, manpower and materials. It helps the researcher for advanced planning and avoid duplication. It helps to modify the research if any difficulties. It gives reality to research. Next one, research design process. Selection of research topic and problem, framing research design, framing sampling design, collection of data, data analysis and editing, coding, processing and preservation, and last one, writing research reports. Next, characteristics of good research design: theory, grounded, environment, feasibility of implementation, redundancy, efficient. It should be flexible, it should be economical, it should be unbiased, it should fulfill the objectives of a research, it should be more appropriate to all the aspects of research. Next, it should guide him to achieve correct results. It provides scientific base for his research. It also should facilitate to complete the research work within the stipulated time. And functions of research design: it provides a blueprint of research. It limits the boundaries of the research activities. It enables investigation to anticipate potential problems. And components of research design: title of the investigation, purposes of the study, review of related literature, statement of the problem, scope of the investigation, and objectives of the study: variables, hypothesis, selection of sample, data collection and analysis of data. First one, types of research design. First one, experimental design. Second one, non-experimental design. Experimental design means there are two types: quasi-experimental and experimental. Non-experimental design: case study design and methods, content analysis, ethnography, focus groups, network analysis and sociometry. Hypothesis: the purposes of hypothesis testing is to determine whether there is enough statistical evidence in favor of a certain belief about a parameter. A hypothesis is a preliminary or tentative explanation or postulate by the researcher of what the researcher considers the outcome of an investigation will be. It is an informed, educated guess. It indicates the expectation of the researcher regarding certain variable. It is the most specific way in which an answer to a problem can be stated. Next one, define hypothesis. A tentative statement about a population parameter that might be true or wrong. The difference between an hypothesis and a problem. Both an hypothesis and a problem contribute to the body of knowledge which supports or refutes an existing theory. An hypothesis differs from a problem. A problem is formulated in the form a question. It serves as the basis or origin from which an hypothesis is derived. An hypothesis is a suggested solution to a problem. A problem questions cannot be directly tested, whereas an hypothesis can be tested and verified. When is an hypothesis formulated? A hypothesis is formulated after the problem has been stated and the literature study has been concluded. It is formulated when the researcher is totally aware of the theoretical and the empirical background to the problem. Next one, purpose and functions of an hypothesis. It offers explanation for the relationship between those variables that can be empirically tested. It furnishes proof that the researcher has sufficient background knowledge to enable him or her to make a suggestion in order to extend existing knowledge. It gives a direction to an investigation. It structures the next pass in the investigation and therefore furnishes continuity to the examination of the problem. Next, characteristics of an hypothesis. It should have eliciting power. It should strive to furnish an acceptable explanation of the phenomenon. It must be variable. It must be verifiable. It must be formulated in simple, understandable terms. It should correspond with the existing knowledge. Then, types of hypothesis. Descriptive hypothesis. These are propositions that describe the characteristics such as size, form or distribution of a variable. The variable may be an object, person, organization, etc. For example, the rate of unemployment among odds guarantees in higher than that of commerce graduates. The educational system is not oriented to human resource needs of a country. Relational hypothesis, these are propositions which describe the relationship between no variables. For example, families with higher incomes spend more for recreation. Upper class people have fewer children than lower class people. Then, casual hypothesis. It states that the existence of or a changes in one variable causes or leads to an effect on another variable. The first variable is called the independent variables and the later the dependent variables. When the dealing with the causal relationship between variable, the researcher must consider the direction in which such a relationship flow. For example, which is cause and which is effect. Next, working hypothesis. Working hypothesis while planning the study of a problem. Hypotheses are formed initially. They may not be very specific. In such cases, they are referred to as working hypotheses, which are subject to model modification as the investigation proceeds, etc. Next, null hypothesis. These hypotheses are formulated for testing statistical significance. Since this form is a convenient approaches to statistical analysis, as the test would nullify the null hypothesis. For example, there is a relationship between a family's income and expenditure on recreation. A null hypothesis may state there is no relationship between family's income level and the expenditure on recreation. Statistical hypothesis. These are statements about a statistical population. These are derived from a sample. These are quantitative in nature in that they are numerically measurable. For example, group A is older than group B. Then common sense hypothesis. It states the existence of empirical uniformities perceived through day-to-day observation. For example, shop assistants in small shop lack motivation. Complex hypothesis. This aim at testing the existence of logically derived relationship between empirical uniformities. For example, in the early stage human ecology described empirical uniformities in the distribution of land values, industrial concentration, types of business and other phenomena. Analytical hypothesis. It concerns with the relationship of analytical variables. These hypotheses occur at the highest level of abstraction. These specify relationship between changes in one property and changes in another. For example, the study of human fertility might show empirical irregularities by wealth, education, region and religion, etc. Next one, characteristics of a good hypothesis. Conceptual clarity, specificity, testability, availability of technique, theoretical relevance, consistency, objectivity and simplicity. Sources of hypothesis. Theory, observation, analysis, institution and past experience, findings of studies, state of knowledge, culture, continuity of research. Then sampling. Sampling is the process of selecting a small number of elements from a larger defined target group of elements such that the formation gathered from the small group will allow judgment to be made about the larger groups. Basis of sampling theory. Population, element, defined target population, sampling unit and sampling frame. Sampling error means in any type of bias that is attributable to mistakes in either drawing a sample or determining the sample size. Developing a sampling plan. Define the population of interest. Identify the sampling frame if possible. Selecting a sampling method. Determine sample size. Execute the sampling plan. Then defining population of interest. Population of interest is entirely depend on management problem, research problem and research design. Some basis for defining population: geographic area, demographics, usage and lifestyle and awareness. Next one, sampling frame or a list of population elements, people, companies, houses, cities, etc. from which units to be sampled can be selected. Difficult to get an accurate list. Sample frame error occurs when certain elements of the population are accidentally omitted or not included on the list. See the Survey Sampling International for some good examples, etc. Sampling methods, one probability sampling and another one non-probability sampling. Then types of sampling method. Probability, simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling and a cluster sampling method. Non-probability is the convenience sampling, judgment sampling, quota sampling and snowball sampling. Then simple random sampling. Simple random sampling is a method of probability sampling in which every unit has a equal non-zero chance of being selected. Then systematic random sampling is a method of probability sampling in which the defined target population is ordered and the sample is selected according to position using a skip interval. Then steps in drawing a systematic random sample. First one, obtain a list of units that contains an acceptable frame for the target population. Second one, determine the number of units in the list and the desired sample size. Third one, compute the skip interval. Fourth one, determine a random start point. Fifth one, beginning at the start point, select the units by choosing each unit that corresponds to the skip. Then stratified random sampling. It is a method of probability sampling in which the population is divided into different subgroups and samples are selected from each. Next one, steps in drawing a stratified random sampling. Divided the target population into homogeneous subgroups or strata. Draw random samples for each stratum. Combine the sample from each stratum into a single sample for the target population. Then cluster sampling is a sampling technique used when natural groupings are evident in a statistical population. It is often used in marketing research. It divides population into comparable groups, schools, cities, etc. Cluster sampling is to reduce the average cost per interview. The technique given more accurate result when most of the variation in the population is within the groups. Next, non-probability sampling methods. Convenience sampling release upon convenience and access. Judgment sampling release upon belief that participation fit characteristics. Quota sampling emphasizes a representation of specific characteristics. Snowball sampling release upon respondents' referrals of others with the like characteristics, etc. Then convenience samples drawn at the convenience of the interviewer. People tend to make the selection at a familiar location and to choose respondents who are like themselves. Judgment samples are that require judgment or an educated guess on the part of the interviewer as to who should represent the population. Also, judges, informed individuals may be asked to suggest who should in this sample. Quota samples that are set a specific number of certain types of individuals to be interviewed. Snowball sampling. It is a technique for developing a research sample where existing study subjects recruit feature subjects from among their acquaintances. Then factors to consider in sample design. Research objectives, resources, knowledge of target population, degree of accuracy, time frame, research scope, statistical and needs, etc. Data collection. Its possibilities are wide and varied with any one method of collection, not inherently better than any other. Each has pros and cons that must be weighted up in view of a rich and a complex context. The data collection process, all methods of collection require rigorous and systematic design and execution that include thorough planning, well-considered development, effective piloting, weight and modification, deliberate implementation and execution, appropriate management and analysis, etc. Next one, surveys. Surveying involves gathering information from individual using a questionnaire. Surveys can reach a large number of respondents, generates standardized, quantifiable empirical data as well as some quantitative data, and offer confidentially and anonymity. Designing survey instruments capable of generating credible data, however, can be difficult. Then survey types. Surveys can be descriptive or explanatory, involve entire population or sample of population, capture a movement or map trend, can be administrative in a number of ways. Then survey construction, it involves formatting questions and response categories, writing up a background information and instruction, working through organization and length determination, layout and design. Interviewing involves asking respondent a series of open-ended questions. Interviews can be gathered both standardized quantifiable data and more in-depth qualitative data. However, the complexities of people and the complexities of communication create many opportunities for miscommunication and misinterpretation and etc. Interview types, it can range from formal to informal, structured to unstructured, can be one-on-one or involve groups. Next, conducting interviews. When conducting your interviews, you will need to question, prompt and probe in ways that help you gather rich data. Actively listen and make sense of what is being said, manage the overall process. Then observation. It relies on the researcher ability to gather data through their senses and allows a researcher to document actual behavior rather than responses related to behavior. However, the observer can act differently when surveilled, and the observation can be attained by a researcher world view. And the observation types, it can range from non-participant to participant, candid to covert, from structured to unstructured data. The observation process is sometimes treated casually, but is a method that needs to be treated as rigorously as any other. The process should include planning, observing, recording, reflecting and authenticating, etc. Then experimentation, it is explore causes and effect relationship by manipulating independent variables in order to see if there is a corresponding effect on a dependent variables. Then experimentations, few experimentation require both the controlled evident and the use of a randomly assigned control group. This can be difficult to achieve in human-centered experiment conducted in the real world. The real world experiments means that there are many experiments that can only be carried out in the messy and controlled environments of the real world. So, the search for cause and effect will require a trade-off between real world context and a controlled environment. Thank you.